The Adventures of Batman with Robin, Boy Wonder. Batman and Robin, dynamic duo against crime and corruption, whose real identities as millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his young ward Dick Grayson are known only to Alfred, the faithful butler. Ever alert, they respond swiftly to a signal from the police, and moments later, from the secret Batcave deep beneath Wayne Manor, they roar out to protect life, limb, and property as Batman and Robin, Cape Crime Fighters. Batman and Robin, scourge of Gotham City's kooky criminals. The Joker, clown prince of crime. The Penguin, pudgy purveyor of perfidy. And the cool, cruel Mr. Freeze. Watch out, villains. Here come Batman and Robin.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're back with new episodes of our continuing look at the 1968 Filmation series, The Adventures of Batman. And when I say we, I'm joined in this trip through these episodes by the man himself from 13thdimension.com, Mr. Dan Greenfield. Hey, Dan.
Hi, John.
Sorry, that's my really, really bad attempt at Jane Webb as Catwoman. Sorry.
Oh,
sorry.
Jane Webb.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Hi, John.
Oh my God. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Now, here's a question for you. Is Jane Webb still alive?
I don't know. I hope not after I just did that.
The reason
I don't know.
The reason I say that is I know with everything we were talking about when we recently did the review of Batman versus Two-Face, I was thinking, they could have brought in Jane Webb, even just as a quick touch as the librarian in, just
right.
to,
that would have been nice. No, sadly, though, it was not an option. She died in 2010.
All right.
Yeah. But, however, let's see. No, yeah, I'm just looking at what her final. No, in fact, her last, according to Wikipedia, so not 100% accurate, but her last voice work was 1977 on the new Archie and Sabrina Hour. So there you have it. Yeah, so there you go. But she played Veronica Lodge and Betty Cooper. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because when you listen to her Catwoman and her Batgirl.
Her Batgirl's great.
Well, the Batgirl's great, but I'm just saying it's like that ability, though, to... Because I wouldn't be able to tell that was the same person. Like, say, Casey Kasem or Olan Soule, when they did other voices, you were like, yeah, that's them.
Mm-hmm.
Even Ted Knight. I love Ted Knight, but he didn't have... that ability to really change his voice up that much. There was still always a bit of Ted Knight in him.
That is true. Yeah. Now, why are we talking about Jane Webb so much?
Well, we're talking about Jane Webb because today we're going to be doing the full-length 2-part episode there, A Game of Cat and Mouse. And this is written by Bill Keenan, one of our favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now... I gotta say, it's funny because you mentioned we talking about the voices and stuff. My wife was watching these episodes with me when I was taking my notes and stuff, and one of the things she was impressed with was Casey Kasem as the voice of Robin. And it's funny because as much as we always say Burt Ward is the perfect live action Robin, she said, Casey Kasem makes the perfect animated Robin.
Absolutely true. Absolutely 100% true. When I read comic books of that era, I don't hear Adam West and Burt Ward. And maybe it's because the drawings in the comics, the Filmation drawings are so similar to the house style of what DC was at the time before Neil Adams got his hands on them. It was that Carmine Infantino style. And so when I read those comics now, I still hear Olan Soule and Casey Kasem in my head. And that just goes to show you how right on those voices are and how perfect the voice casting was for these cartoons. Because you're right. Casey Kasem is, everybody thinks of him as Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, but his Robin, he's doing his own thing as Casey Kasem, but he's also channeling that really aggressively loyal, gung-ho Burt Ward attitude. It was if you weren't going to get Burt Ward at that time, Casey Kasem was the perfect choice. And when they ended up going and doing them again back in late 70s, and they did cast Burt Ward and Adam West, I still think that Olan Soule and Casey Kasem were better choices because I think they were more natural voice actors.
Yeah. And he was already 36 at the time.
Yeah, which is, that's always the funny thing about that sort of thing. That he was, well into his own career.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was a DJ by that time. I'm fairly certain. I'll look that up also while we're talking here.
Right. Well, let's get talking about this episode here.
Gotham Municipal Park, where, in an exact replica of a small French castle, the famous jewels of King Charles the Great are on exhibit. Beautiful, aren't they, Mr. Wayne?
And priceless, too, Commissioner Gordon. Are you sure they're quite safe from robbery attempts?
Indeed. We've organized maximum police security. Besides, this glass is wired to an alarm system so sensitive, one footstep, one touch will set it off.
Sounds like maximum security, all right.
But Dick Grayson has spoken too soon, for at this very moment, in her hideout outside of Gotham City, the Catwoman lays a bold plan before her henchmen.
Tonight, we steal the crown jewels.
What? The crown jewels? Impossible. How? Nobody can get into that glass room without bringing every cop in the city.
We don't try to get into the glass room. We take the whole works, castle and all.
This is your Filmation logic. And the kind of thing that you would do if Migos had existed in 1968. This is the kind of thing that you would reenact with your sister's Barbie dream house. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This would have been one of those things because it's completely absurd. And with what, like a couple of helicopters, what does it take to lift an entire castle, from its foundations? Yeah.
Well, we only see
classic.
When she does it, we only see 3, but I imagine there's a 4th one somewhere because you got to have each corner covered.
I would think, but nothing nothing surprises me in the world of Filmation.
Now, I had to wonder though, was this on purpose or just did you have 2 actors sort of overemphasizing it? Because there's the scene with Catwoman and her henchmen, and she says we're going to get the crown jewels. And then the henchman goes, yes, we'll get the jewels. Yeah,
I noticed that too. I did also, especially when she said, the jewels. Yeah. I'm like, wow, well, okay, all right, that's fine, I guess. Maybe that's a thing when you over-enunciate sometimes when you're a voice actor, but it really comes across, yes.
Yeah. But, of course, Bruce being Bruce, he knows that this can't just go with even the best security measures, that Batman and Robin are going to be there just to make sure everything is fine. And we get another staple of Batman 66 anyway, or actually I'd say even television of the 60s and 70s, the Irish cops.
Murphy, no crook in his right mind would attempt to rob this place.
You're right, Casey. Hey, what's that?
Saints preserve us! They're stealing the whole castle!
There is not every single cop in Gotham. And by the way, the uniforms, if you notice, they keep changing. Sometimes they're brown, sometimes they're blue. I guess maybe the difference between maybe park cops or something. I don't know. Sometimes you see different uniforms. They're all Irish.
Yeah.
Every single cop in Gotham City on this show is Irish. It's not just Chief O'Hara. It's every single cop.
Yeah. But she manages to get away with the castle, carrying it away with the helicopters. She plans on selling the jewels to the highest bidder. And I did like this part here because it gives us, again, more Bruce Wayne, because Batman decides Bruce Wayne will make a deal with Catwoman.
Anytime you get Bruce Wayne involved, in these stories, as implausible really as that is, it's fun. Because as I've always said, whether it's on the live action show or, in the cartoons, it's that transformative power of the character that, he's almost like, in this particular case, he's almost like an operative of Batman. And I like that. I like that part of it. It's a stretch, but yeah, if you're going to try to buy into the fencing game, I guess, you can't do it as Batman. You got to do it as Bruce Wayne. So, what surprises me is that he didn't do it undercover, or he didn't have to go through an intermediary. He's like, no, I'm Bruce Wayne, and I'm going to pay you $1 million, and here's my $100,000, down pot. I don't want to jump ahead, but here's cash out of my hand as Bruce Wayne, which implicates him in the crime.
Well, it implicates him, but the thing is that's really interesting is that he does sort of do it a little underhand, because he has Robin contact the underworld contacts and get the word out that Bruce Wayne was interested.
Right, but even in the comics a few years after this, they invented the idea of Matches Malone, which was how Bruce Wayne or Batman could then actually infiltrate the Gotham City street life and do certain things and plant seeds and get information that he might not be able to get in a different way. I just would have thought that they would have the idea of Bruce Wayne actually himself saying let the world know or let the underworld know that I want to pay for these crown jewels. Yeah, it just seems a stretch.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in his secret hideout, the Funhouse, the Clown Prince of Crime reads at the Catwoman's caper.
Oh, that's rich! What a magnificent crime! I wish I had pulled it. As a matter of fact, I think I shall.
Now it's not just a Catwoman episode. Now we find out that it's a team up.
Exactly. Well, of sorts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I say that right. Yeah, exactly. Because they're not exactly on the same side in this one, but it's a multi-villain episode.
Right. Exactly. And like you said, that night, Catwoman sneaks into Wayne Manor, and Bruce offers her $1 million, but she wants to court other offers, so he gives her $100,000 as a down payment. And in true '66 Batman, it's got a tracking device.
Of course, well, it would have to. But I also should call them 100,000 big ones. Yes.
As she's driving back, Joker stops her car, and he tries to first get in on the whole scheme, and she refuses, so he slips a tracking device in her car.
Right, but why? Because why would she? First off, why would she want to bring him on as a? This isn't like this sinister "I'm going to kill you if you don't bring me in" Joker. Later on, that nobody wants to deal with the Joker in the comics after 1973 because he would kill you. This is just he's just this annoying clown guy. Why would you want him? Why would you want him, on your side? Especially as this show has established in its own way that Catwoman is the smartest of the villains. She's the most lethal. She's the most ruthless, and she's the smartest. She always seems, things don't go her way because the villains never win on this show. But of all of them, she's the one who always seems to have the best plans, the best ideas. I mean, her henchmen are as dopey as the other guy's henchmen, although they have awesome outfits. But first off, this is her gig. I already have a buyer. I got a plan on how I'm going to get the crown jewels. What does she need the Joker for?
Right. Yeah. Except she does need him in a sense because he follows her back to her hideout and he plans to use these trained mice to steal the jewels.
Which is awesome. Which is great.
Well, it's great. It's great, but then it's also disappointing because the mice are so cartoony looking.
I noticed that too. They're like anthropomorphic mice that you expect them to start talking.
Right.
They don't look like mice. They look like cartoon, like Tom and Jerry kind of mice.
Exactly.
Not as cute. Yeah. I noticed that also. Yeah.
But Joker sees the Batmobile, so he sends a mouse with a note to warn Catwoman, hoping that while she deals with Batman, he can wake away with the jewels. And he's pretty much right because the two are surprised as we get an inverted R.
Drink.
There you go.
There's no one here, Batman.
Yes again, boy wonder.
Robin, look out.
So a bat fight breaks out, and during the fight, Joker steals the jewels.
Oh, this is almost too easy.
Yeah, he's smart. I also like the neat little animation. It's a small thing that they do a perfect circle with this little laser.
Well done, boys. The cheese will be on me.
And he pops the thing in. Very shades of the 1966 Catwoman debut episode, when she steals one of the golden cats in the opening scene. By using her fingernail and scratching a hole and pops the glass in and all that. Right. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, I like how the mice are so well trained that they just drag the whole thing out for the Joker. He's good to go.
Yep. And it's an interesting thing because that whole thing's going on while the fight's going on. We don't see the rest of the fight. Instead, we cut back. No. They're defeated.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin are defeated.
Yeah. Now, a couple of things that I think are worth noting that we haven't really mentioned. One is I like Catwoman's hideout. And even though being in the cavern is not really a Catwoman thing, I do like the way it looks. I do like the fact that she's got her leopards there. She's got her throne there. She had a throne on the TV show. There's also, when they first pan into her hideout and the hoods are there, you get that one. I think we might have seen this before. But they're all wearing their green outfits, which always makes me laugh because, of course, she wears green and there's no such thing as a green cat. But one of the guys is standing in shadows, and it looks like he's drawn all in black. And he looks like Wildcat from the comics. And it looks really, really cool. And it makes you think, man, if they had only put her in black and put them in black, they would have looked so much cooler. But also, it's just a really cool looking visual of the background with the caverns. And, I'm a sucker for a subterranean lair, which is, of course, why I like the Batcave so much anyway.
Now, I got to wonder, though, if that cave, that hideout is now done with because she seals them in there, leaving them behind.
She destroys it, basically. I mean, she causes a landslide and tries to bury them.
Right.
So
exactly.
It certainly does look like quits for the dynamic duo. Don't miss the exciting conclusion coming up next.
Hello? Hi, Julie. Now listen. Guess who's here to talk to you?
I love being a fashion model.
Who's that? That was my new talking Barbie. A talking Barbie? I'm going to come on over right now. Let's just see what she says this time.
Would you like to go shopping? Stacy and I are having a tea.
Who's Stacy? That's my other surprise. She's Barbie's new friend. She talks too.
Hello there. I'm called Stacy.
Now Barbie talks, and so does her new friend, Stacy. She comes from England. Barbie is the very same size she's always been. She and Stacy can even wear the same clothes. Mattel's new Talking Stacy.
I think miniskirts are smashing.
And Talking Barbie.
What shall I wear to the prom?
Want to talk to you.
Sometimes, the only way to get people to notice you is to make a lot of noise. Make noise with bugles. Bugles are love, truth, beauty, corn, and a little salt.
While unknown to her, the Joker was stealing the results of her lawless labors. The fiendishly foul Catwoman prepares to seal the doom of the overcome and unconscious Cape Crusaders. Now, moments later, the feline felon discovers she has been robbed.
The Joker! It could only have been he. Come, we must find him.
We ain't got a chance. He's got too much of a head start. Besides, we don't even know what direction to look.
You forget. We have our own expert in tracking rodents. Come, Cheetah. I have work for you.
The duo revive, and Batman takes a risk by hurling, I think it was his Batarang, at the dynamite she had. Oh, no, he sets up some bat grenades, and he then uses the Batarang to detonate them.
Yeah, this is a really cool sequence, too, because, everything is falling ahead of them, and it's a real risk. I guess it's the only way they can get out, so they're running through another landslide. But it's really cool because it's one of those, they intersperse the smoke and I guess all the dust and the rocks. They intersperse it with a couple of shots of the stock footage that they use a lot of Batman and Robin coming right at the camera.
Right.
So it's really effective. It's a really cool trick that they use to use some of the stock footage of them moving, but it gives it a sense of immediacy and a little bit of danger that really works. It's a well cut scene.
I agree. And it's interesting too because once they get free, Robin drives the Batmobile.
Yeah, they don't explain that. I wonder why, because at first I thought maybe just the footage was flipped. but they're consistent about it. They show Batman in the passenger seat the entire time. Robin's driving. I don't know. Maybe it's because he doesn't want Robin. He wants to talk to the commissioner, and he doesn't want to talk to him while he's driving because that's a no-no. I mean, I'm sure Batman was ahead of the game. The rest of us had to learn the hard way. Don't use your cell phone while you're driving. Batman already knew that in 1968 because he was Batman.
Right. Oh, Lord. But anyway, meanwhile, Catwoman catches up with Joker in her helicopter and lifts his car up into the sky by using these grappling things. Now,
I love it.
Now, it's funny because here I am, and some people might say, oh my God, grappling things. To me, none of that bothered me. I'm asking what helicopter has an actual steering wheel?
See? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, John. I'll grant you that one. I know. The things that we get hung up on.
I know, right?
In any of these episodes, like, hey, wait a minute. That doesn't seem right. Forget about anthropomorphic mice, running around, dragging crown jewels and any of it.
Right.
Any of them. Wait, what Bell 47 has a steering wheel like this?
I want to bring Eugene Knock back on.
Absolutely. I am sure that he could tell us in great detail why there is or is not a steering wheel on a helicopter. That's awesome.
But once she has Joker's car, she then flies it to the river and lowers it into. And I did love this whole thing. She lowers it in, lifts it up, and she demands her jewels. And there's this whole back and forth with him about how he earned the right to have them now and all. It's really cool.
Yeah, and it's such an FU to the Joker too. And she's like, I'm not. Again, this Catwoman does not mess around.
Yeah,
and she is just like, no. First off, you horned in on my deal. They're mine, and you're going to give them up to me. And he said, well, wait a minute. I'm the one who stole them. And she's like, oh, yeah? So, dunk, I'm going to put you in the river, and I'm going to do it a second time unless you do as I say. It's great. Nah, this is fun. And of course, we get to see the Joker-mobile, which, again, always an opportunity for me to pine for more Filmation vehicles that will never get made.
Yeah.
For merchandise.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Batmobile, catches up. They use the Batapult to grab at the copter pincers. And I got it, we've been talking about like different perspectives and stuff. I love the angle they launched from.
Yeah.
The way it was done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, I noticed that in this episode and some of the episodes that we're talking about in this and in our next podcast, they use the Batapult quite a bit. I found that after a while they started using that as a regular device. And then I thought to myself, man, that seems a little pat. And then I realized, wait a minute, it's even in the opening credits they used the Batapult. Yeah. So, I mean, the Batapult was definitely in the forefront of the writers' minds. It was a nice, good little, Deus Ex Machina device for them to be able to use, because they do use it quite a bit. And, of course, you can do that in animation that you can in live action, because it's easy to draw. You just boom, boom, and they fly up and they land wherever they land. But I like what Batman says here. They're driving along, and Catwoman's got the pincers down from the helicopter, and Batman turns to Robin, and he says to him,
"Stand by for Batapult. With luck, we can catch onto those pincers. All set? Fire away!" Now,
here I am thinking, well, what if you'd missed, Batman and Robin? What if you weren't so lucky? What happens then? Now, presumably, they've got batachutes, in their capes or something, and they would have been okay. But I just thought it was kind of a weird thing for Batman to say. If we're lucky, we'll make it. Of course, what they're trying to do for the little kids is give that sense of doubt.
Yeah, yeah. Now the whole thing, though, is let down because you've got this great setup with Catwoman's helicopter, Joker's car, the Batapult, and then it sort of comes to an abrupt end because Batman quickly gets on board. He knocks at and I think now it's a steering stick. It's not the steering wheel, and it throws Catwoman off, and it's all wrapped up off screen.
We think it throws Catwoman off. All it happens is that you're right. You expect the bat fight to end all bat fights on a helicopter,
right?
Which would have been great. You're waiting for it, and Robin is like he's still climbing in, and Batman is on board, and Joker and Catwoman are facing off, and this could have been a battle royale. And then all of a sudden, Batman just runs over and reaches for the steering stick or whatever it is, and you hear kind of a sound. cut to Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? And I actually went back and I said, did I miss something there? Did I kind of, look away for a second? Did I miss it? And I went back and I'm like, oh my God, they actually did. The whole climactic confrontation was just completely wiped away.
Right.
And I'm like, man, and it kind of gave a sense of what I thought this whole episode was, because before we even really got started, my sense of this episode and some of what we're going to be talking about is that it has some of the best of Filmation, or some of the good stuff of Filmation, and also some of the real Filmation letdown. It's like, oh man, they had an opportunity here and it's just wasted. That could have been so great. And they, for whatever reason, their runtime, their editing in this episode is really poor, because you don't get the payoff that this story kind of deserves.
And all for what? An ending where Dick gets to sort of chide Bruce without, Gordon realizing it?
All's well that ends well, eh, Commissioner?
Yes, but it almost didn't end well. The Catwoman almost unloaded the jewels before the dynamic duo caught up with her.
Is that a fact?
It is. Someone had given her 100,000 deposit on the jewels.
Really? What happened to the money, Commissioner?
It was confiscated by the city. We're using it to purchase a better alarm system.
Just goes to show you that consorting with criminals doesn't pay any more than crime itself. Right, Bruce?
Yes, so it would seem, Dick. So it would seem.
Bruce Wayne actually, in a way, could have been indicted in this scheme. Now, I know I'm putting too fine a point on it, and your listeners are probably going to be rolling their eyes about what I'm saying. But now think about this for a second. This is one of those things like you with the steering wheel. I'm saying, well, hold on a second. Dick's making a wah-wah joke at Bruce's expense about losing $100,000 in this scheme. But I'm thinking, how would he? I mean, him being Bruce Wayne, he could have easily explained it, and then Batman would have vouched for him. But the bottom line is that he actually is an unindicted co-conspirator in this scheme, and I just thought it was really sloppy, because it could have been handled in a way that didn't give the joke at the end. And I don't know, maybe the writers were going for something that just didn't work, and they were kind of going to have a joke at the whole idea of Bruce Wayne getting involved. I don't know, or maybe it was just sloppy writing, but that was a letdown. The lack of a big finale was a letdown. I did think it was kind of funny that they kind of put the castle back, in the same way that it was taken down. They kind of put it back the same way. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, overall, I kind of think the episode was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah. Yeah. Before the podcast, you mentioned how, certain episodes aren't always as memorable, like, because we tried to schedule this thing a couple of times to do, so it meant going back and refreshing ourselves, and each time I was the same way. I'm looking at this going, here's all my notes, and I still don't remember a lot of this here. Mm-hmm. It's not a memorable story.
No, because there's a lot of missed opportunities in it. There's a decent setup. I mean, you've got good characters. I will always have mixed feelings about this Catwoman, which I wrote about at 13th Dimension. The frustrating parts of Catwoman on this show is that her characterization is fine. It's Jane Webb's voice that I find so grating. And I don't mean to knock her or anything like that, because she's a wonderful Batgirl, but it's just, this was not great voice direction, because it actually is like fingernails on a blackboard every time Catwoman speaks. And I can't help but be annoyed, because I look at these episodes and I think, what if she just used a different voice, like the voice that was used in the 1977 Filmation cartoons, which is a more purring sound. I think to myself, man, these episodes would be so much better. And then, of course, the shortcuts they take in the storytelling here just makes it fall short. Though I will say that there are two things that I do like that are throwaways in the episode. One, of course, is that we do get to see the Joker's hideout with that, his House of Cards hideout, which I love. But also, Catwoman has a golden pistol in this that we see that looks very, very much like Scaramanga's golden gun from The Man with the Golden Gun, and it predates it by a few years. Now, I don't have any illusions that the guys who designed the one for The Man with the Golden Gun had seen this, but every time I see her gun or holding it up, I'm like, oh my God, that's Scaramanga's gun. How awesome is that?
I didn't have a lot to take away from this other than some of the animation that they did, some of the angles, and like you mentioned, the whole thing from the escape from the cave and stuff was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always fun. I mean, with rare exception, even an annoying Filmation episode is still a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, the next episode, the one-parter, and this is a shame and at the same time not a shame. I don't know. We're introducing the Dollman in the episode "Beware of Living Dolls," written by Bob Haney. Now, yeah, well, let's get into it. Let's talk about it here.
Atop a penthouse terrace in Gotham City, a large and gay crowd enjoys a charity bazaar. As the piles of charity funds rise up, an amazing thing happens at the Wheel of Fortune, where dolls are the prizes.
The story begins with these dolls coming to life at a charity ball. They take the money and toss it over the roof and into a waiting truck. Seems pretty decent of a start. The bat signal goes out. Now, here's something. Was the exclamation to the bat poles a regular trope only in the 66 series?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because prior to that, traditionally, the way Batman and Robin got to the Batcave was behind the grandfather clock, the famous grandfather clock, which would lead to a staircase down into the Batcave. Then in 1964, when they did the new look, they introduced a wall panel. I don't believe it was a bookcase. Might have been. I'd have to go back and look. But either way, they introduced a hidden panel that would open up in Wayne Manor, and there was an elevator that would take them down. And in the 66 show, they created the bat poles, which is actually the best idea of them all because it's so visually striking. It's a great idea. Of course, with the 66 show, they then add the great visual, gag of them actually going down as Bruce and Dick and then coming down as Batman and Robin, which is a lot of fun. And as a kid, you used to like, how did they do that? How did they do that? Which is great on the animated movies that they actually showed how they did that. And they actually had the throwaway gag in, I think it was the movie, where they had to hit the, he hits the lever that says, turns off the instant costume change device.
Right.
But historically, used to, like as a kid, I was like, it would kind of blow my mind. So yeah, the bat poles was an invention of the TV show.
Yeah, because I noticed they never say to the bat poles here. They never say it. Said it in the movie. It's always to the bat cave or something.
Right.
Yeah. Shame. I don't know. It would have been nice to have heard them say it one more time in the animated movie, but.
Yeah. Well, there was a great book, and I'm going to write about it one of these days. A big little book called Batman and Robin: The Cheetah Caper.
Oh yeah.
And which I love that book.
I do too.
I read it literally to pieces when I was a kid. My dad had to create. What's that?
Peanut butter. Remember the
peanut butter. Yeah, we should do a whole. All right, let's stop talking about it right now.
Okay,
because we really should do an episode on this because that book really was a 1966 story because it had a lot of the elements of the 66 show as opposed to the comics.
Right.
In that book. Let's just put a bat pin in this right now and come back to this another time. Anyway, because some of the bat pole stuff factors into that. But anyway, yes, they don't use bat poles here. So anyway, you were saying.
So they're called in, and meanwhile, there's another crime. It's a quick scene with a groom doll ripping off a wedding party.
Right.
Which I liked. But then we come to the Dollman himself and his underground hideout.
At this very moment, in a secret underground lair, a large electronic map of Gotham City is being studied by a sinister gnome-like man, the infamous Dollman.
So my two little lovelies are in the hands of the police. Well, no matter. They've done their work well. And I have many more dolls to create a crime wave, the likes of which Gotham City has never seen. Ah! The banker doll! Just the model for my next cunning caper.
Okay.
Horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, horrible Dollman or horrible hideout or both?
Oh, just Dollman is terrible.
Yeah.
This is, I think, our first created for the show villain. Is it not? This isn't. We haven't gotten to Simon the Pie Man yet.
No.
We haven't gotten to the Judge.
No.
We had the Scarecrow, which was, a different version of the Scarecrow that we're accustomed to, as we discussed on a previous episode. But this is the first time they've actually a villain specifically for the show.
Right.
Now, of course, there is a Dollman in comic book history, but he was a hero. There's Toyman, who was a Superman villain.
See, that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. This is basically Toyman.
Yeah.
Okay. Only they made him, a little person with a horrible voice and rosy cheeks, which just really creepy. Now, I suppose creepy in a good way. Now, Bob Haney's great. If your listeners are at all familiar with Bob Haney was one of the great 1960s and 70s comic book writers, probably in the 50s too. But he was really known for his outlandish plots and ideas. So he was perfect for doing, the Filmation stuff, the stuff that would really kind of go out there and wouldn't necessarily make sense, but was wildly entertaining at the same time. And that's sort of what this episode is. It's kind of off its hinges a little bit, but the villain is, first off, it's kind of it's a derivative villain, but the villain is so annoying and so creepy that I just was like, oh, this is just gross. I don't like him at all. I actually the episode itself is okay, but I cannot stand this Dollman, and I think a lot of it has to do with that horrible voice.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same impression I got. I was like, this story actually isn't bad, but
right.
I just kept, as I'm watching it, and even if it wasn't Toyman, I just kept thinking Superman would be better suited against the Dollman, at least in that age of the 60s and stuff. I just felt he was way off for Batman. Like maybe instead if it had been, and I know we've talked about this before too, the ventriloquist.
Yeah, right. See, ventriloquist would have been. Of course, he wasn't created until the '80s, but
right.
he would have been a great great villain for the Batman TV show. And I'm not even a huge ventriloquist fan.
Oh, see, I am.
I just think. Oh, really? Yeah, I know a lot of people really love him. But he would have been such a great, and he could have been, Edgar Bergen. Would have been the perfect villain to have him be. I mean, when you look in your mind and you're like, that would have been such a great episode. To have Edgar Bergen doing the ventriloquist in the 1966 show, it would have been lights out. I don't agree with you that the Dollman is necessarily a non-Batman villain in this context, because Filmation, it's a lighter version of everything.
Okay.
So I think it's okay. I just don't like him, and he's so creepy. And you want it to be creepy in a good way, but he's, I guess it's, I don't know. Of course you want creepy, it's Batman, but this is just, there's something really annoying and off-putting about this particular villain that I kept thinking to myself, if they had designed him differently or had him speak differently, I might have been okay with it. Maybe it was because he had those rosy cheeks, and I kept thinking like, ew, there's something off about this. I don't like this. Make it stop.
Yeah. Now, after we've been introduced to Dollman, we get and I love this. I know it's at the very end in the credits, but I think this is the first time we see it in the episode itself. The point of view shot of the Batcave with Wayne Manor right above it.
Is it the first time?
I think so.
I don't know, but I do love it.
Yeah.
I really do love it. Yeah. Because that's something you didn't even get on the TV series. You never got the shot of, where the tunnel was in relation to Wayne Manor. Right. And it's true. You do love seeing that. It's just cool.
Yeah. No, it is. Batman is appreciating the mini transistors used to work the dolls. Little touches like that. I do like that.
Sure.
We cut to a bank where a banker doll sneaks into the night deposit window and opens the bank to two gangster dolls.
I like that. See, this is what I'm saying. Some of the humor of the using the dolls that are, they look like the crime they're about to commit. Right. I like that. I think that's neat, and I think that's clever. And I actually think the animation of the dolls, and it might be because they're inherently limited in their movement, so the animation kind of works because it's limited animation. But I like the dolls themselves.
Oh yeah.
And and when we get to the big fight, I've got shortly. Some of that I thought really works too. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, they are in the Batmobile. They spot the Dollman's truck with the license plate DM1313. I get the DM part, but I was waiting for some payoff to the whole thing when Batman's like, "Look at that, double bad luck," and I'm like, "Is that also part of his MO?"
No. What he was telling you is how big a fan of 13th Dimension he is. See, it's mention 13, and then another 13 because it's awesome. See, that's where that came from.
See, I'll believe that more.
See, there you go.
Oh my God.
Dimension. Yeah.
and what's they get inside, and at first I had to wonder, were those gangster dolls or was Dollman hiring short people? But as the fight breaks out, we see one of them destroyed. Clearly, it's a doll.
Look, Batman. It's Dollman's gang making a large withdrawal.
Dynamic duo. One more step and this plastic charge will close all our accounts.
Hold it, Robin. Hey, let's get him, chum.
We get an inverted Bat's emblem from Batman as he's fighting.
Yes, we do. Which always looks good, by the way.
It does.
Look out, Robin.
The yellow on the black oval looks really cool. It looks really good.
Yeah, we get a reverse R. We get the fact that Robin's cape can deflect darts.
Dollman must be in that truck.
To the Batmobile. Hurry.
Yes, that's a new power. Yeah. I noticed that myself. I'm like, all right, good on you, Robin. But I also first of all, I like the dolls themselves. A couple of things about all of this. One is that I like the fact that he does get Batman and Robin dolls into the story. And I think to myself, this predates Mego, of course.
Right.
But I'm like, this is really cool. This is really awesome. And of course, if I'm playing with my Migos while watching this as a little kid, I could somehow use that as a thing.
Yeah.
I guess I would have had my Mego Batman holding my Corgi Batman, and that way you would have had, that would have worked to scale. But I thought that was cool. I like the fact that he reprograms them and they follow him back to the hideout. I think that's really cool. There's also a bit of scenery where they show Dollman at his computer or whatever it is. And it's a really neat design. And it reminded me of one of those boards that you would see at an old power plant or maybe at an old subway terminal or something like that. It's just a really neat design that made me think that it was drawn from something that actually existed as opposed to just off the top of the head, because it actually looks more functional than a lot of the machinery on this series does. But also, even if you notice, the Robin Hood doll that's shooting the arrows, how much it looks like Green Arrow. It looks like Oliver Queen, the Neil Adams version of Green Arrow, as opposed to the Green Arrow that we used to see in the 60s. Now, I don't think one had anything to do with the other. I don't think that version of Green Arrow had been introduced yet in the comics, though Bob Haney, I believe, wrote that story where Green Arrow first got his new costume. But anyway, I couldn't help but notice that just purely coincidentally, because I think he's got a blonde beard or whatever. But also even the little ethnic dolls, and this one had the swords, I guess, and this one had the knife. Whatever. The way all of that worked, I thought, this is pretty good. And yet then we cut back to Dollman, and I think, oh my God, I hate this.
Yeah. Now, there's something else, too, because, he gets away, and before even the fight with that, there's this whole thing with the 3-penny blue stamp. Is there something about stamps and the color blue? Because there was that Green Hornet episode of Batman where it was also the Blue Boy stamp.
I am sure 1 or 10 of our listeners, or 15, will at some point put in whatever commentary, they will answer this question. I'm not a stamp collector, but I'm almost certain that this is a riff on a famous rare stamp. I know that certain old stamps that were certain colors and certain images that were then inverted, and that are printing errors and certain. I know that there's stuff like that out there, but I can't with any kind of authority speak to it. But I am sure that this is, and knowing them, I'm sure that this is a riff on something that actually exists. Right. I'm sure there's something to that. I just don't know what it is.
Right. Well, the blue stamp, and Batman and Robin stake it out to make sure that Dollman doesn't take it. There's a postman doll that does come and take the stamp, but Batman and Robin are hiding. And again, nice little touch. They're hiding in the armor, just like they did in the 66 series.
Yes. Yeah, I noticed that too.
But the doll has a grenade, and it knocks Batman, but it doesn't hurt him, so they manage to catch the doll. Later, while the duo are checking in with Gordon, we've got a street vendor. You mentioned the Batman and Robin dolls. He places 2 of them in the glove compartment of the Batmobile, which is, I think, the first time we ever see a glove compartment.
Yeah, and it has no security whatsoever.
Right.
The commissioner had no late clues on Dollman's dastardly didos.
True, but I've got a funny feeling some of his malicious marionettes are about to strike. Hard.
Batman, look!
Batapult!
Yeah, I did like this. The two eject as the car crashes.
Holy booby traps! That was close.
Too close. Come on, let's check the Batmobile. Robin, it's time we turned the tables on our friend the Dollman.
Check, Batman. Let's do just that.
There's one Batmobile needing repairs. And who's going to tow it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Not only who's going to tow it, but isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's a little careless too.
Yeah,
a little careless. Just going to let it crash on its own. I'm like, that's not really that cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's okay because nobody walks the streets in Gotham City in Filmation.
That's true.
A city of 8 million people you never see.
A city of 8 million people you never see, a city where there's apparently hardly ever any traffic because the Batmobile and whatever car they're pursuing managed to tear through the streets with no problem.
Especially on the Upper East Side where they keep coming upon the Guggenheim Museum over and over and over again.
Oh, man. So Batman reprograms the dolls and has them return to their sender. Right. So he follows them, he and Robin. And when they get to Dollman's hideout, it's like you were saying there, you've got all these different types of dolls.
Which is cool.
Weapons. Oh, yeah, it's all really cool. Yeah. The ending is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's if I didn't hate the villain so much, and also I have to say, I don't know why, but even the name Dollman, it's a lousy name. It's a lousy name for whether it's a hero or a villain. Dollman. There isn't anything really sinister about it unless you really want to go like really creepy and weird. And there's nothing heroic about Dollman. Now I know that there are going to be some of your listeners who are like Golden Age fans and like, oh, Dollman was great. He was better than the Atom and he was better than, Ant-Man or what. No, fine. But Dollman just sounds inherently silly to me. So I think that was part of it also. And obviously they didn't want to say Toyman.
Right.
They didn't want to do that because this is a Toyman episode is what it is. But even then they could have come up with some other name, I think. But Dollman is just sorry.
No, I agree. And, in the process of it all up, they're able to round up Dollman, and the episode ends, fairly quickly from there. But like you said, I mean, the story-wise and the whole thing with the dolls themselves, it's just maybe if the villain had been better realized.
Right.
Yeah. Now, does he come back?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think he's done and one and done. Because we haven't gotten to Simon the Pie Man yet. We haven't gotten to the judge.
Right.
And I don't think Dollman, and we haven't gotten to Mad Hatter yet. And then, with all the episodes remaining with the other, main villains, no, I don't think I think this is the only time we ever saw Dollman. And I'm fine with that.
And if I'm not mistaken, Simon makes 2 appearances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking forward to those.
Right. Well, as we wrap this episode up here, Dan, what's going on over at 13th Dimension? Besides Dollman's appreciation.
Yeah, right, exactly. The Dollman appreciation thread. No, it's, the same as always. We covering things that are Batman 66 and beyond, comic books and the like from the Golden Age to today. We do a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s, but also a lot of modern stuff. But as far as the Batman 66 stuff, we should know pretty soon what's going on with the next wave of Funko action figures. We've also been covering the Factory Entertainment Batcave, which should be due out early in 2018. And we've always got something going on with Batman 66, so pay us a visit.
Very cool. And that's 13th Dimension, 13thdimension.com.
Yep, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Cool. So, folks, stay tuned next time. We're not done talking about Catwoman yet. We've got another 2-part Catwoman story to focus on, and this time it's all Catwoman as she has found a ringer for Robin and trains him to basically discover everything he can about Batman.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. And it's also Mr. Freeze's turn to kidnap Maharaja.
Yep.
Yeah. So tune in next time, folks. Tune in. We've still got more episodes coming as well of the Hornet Sting podcast. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Dan, everyone, take care, citizens.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave Podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com, subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com, that's LIBSYN.com, or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave podcast.